welcome everyone who's here. Firstly, our guests, Stu and Yurii, and all of our participants who are listening. And I'm really encouraging you not only listening, but also share your thoughts, share your questions, and be an active participants in this meeting. We're gonna talk about the ecosystem with the current metaverse concept we have at the moment. And today we have Stu Richards and Yurii Filipchuk, who are our guests. So Yurii is the CEO and founder of Party Space, a super cool metaverse platform for meetings and collaborations, and it's browser first metaverse platform. So Yurii, please give us your intro, and then we can jump to Stu.
Yeah, thank you, Daria, for having me here. It's my pleasure and honor to be there with you. Greetings to all people in chat. So Party Space, yes, it's a browser-first metaverse for remote teams and online communities. So for us, metaverse, the metaverse is not the destination. It's a tool that helps to create more engagement, and a tool that creates remote teams to have better social events, to synchronize their team members in a more meaningful way, and just literally have some fun online. Party Space is not only about parties. We work with Google, Zapier, University of Berkeley, Football Club Juventus, and a few Fortune 500. Yeah, thank you. A few Fortune 500 clients. So it's not only about parties, but that's how we started, and that's how things are rolling. Thank you.
That sounds cool. I would love to know more about some of the use cases with the clients you've just mentioned. And I'm sure that our guests will also be interested to know the real use cases, like Google is using, or like the Manchester United, you said, or
Juventus.
Yeah. How do they use your platform? What type of collaborations do they run in there? And it will be great to cover this topic as well, because we will be talking about the metaverse and the use cases and what business can get from the metaverse at the moment. So that's super cool that you're here with us today, and you can share this practical part, the usage of your platform as one of the parts of this current metaverse ecosystem. Thank you. So Stu Richards, and who's also known as Meta Mike, a partner success lead at Gig Labs, and Gigantik IO is kind of a spin-off product, right, Stu?
It's our kind of hero product. So
yeah,
Gigantik is end-to-end enterprise Web3 platform and marketplace provider. So yeah, I head up partner success there, and really what that means is working more on the NFT digital collectible side of things, helping brands understand the best strategy for them, bring them on board, creating a marketplace, minting NFTs, and providing a bunch of utility out of the box with our platform. So really just guiding partners through that process.
That's cool. So the Gigantik IO, it helps businesses and integrates with their loyalty program and uses the NFTs together with their loyalty programs, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's honestly a ton of different ways that brands can go about activating these NFT programs. It could be loyalty, it could be redemption for gifting, it could be token gating live events and using NFTs as tickets. There's really a ton of different ways that those strategies can be implemented.
Cool. I would love to talk about that more while we've been answering the questions from our plan we have. Well, thank you. It's a pleasure having you here. Thank you for your time and being here. We usually start with this icebreaker question. And it's a little bit fun. Like, how would you describe 5 years old yourself? What do you do at the moment? What is your profession? Yurii, would you love to start?
Yeah, okay. To 5 years old me, considering that I am 5 years old now, but not in 1997. I would say that I help people who work online to play games together, to have some fun, and have a good group and good connections with their colleagues, like you do at your kindergarten offline. We do that online. So that
Wow,
would be the
that's cool.
description.
I love this parallel with the kindergarten.
Thank you.
Thank you. Stu, do you remember your 5 years old yourself?
No, not really.
Yeah.
No, but in terms of 5 years from now, I really see, what I want to be doing is helping brands bring their products into a virtual space. So really working on building out 3D assets and 3D based products for consumers. It's weird to kind of perceive because we're definitely not there yet in terms of what the perceived value of those assets are. But as time goes by, especially 5 years, maybe 10 years, I think people's perception about digital assets and digital goods is going to change. So yeah, helping brands
Absolutely.
bring their stuff there.
Yeah, that's a good point. But how would you describe what you do at the moment to yourself when you were 5 years old? Like, how would you describe it to a child?
Yeah, I currently would help bring cool Roblox clothes to Roblox. That's
Good
probably
one.
the easiest way for a 5-year-old to understand it.
Yeah. Well, thanks God we have Roblox and we can use it to describe what we do to children. Okay, cool. Thank you so much. So guys, let's start the discussion around the questions we have. And it's all about the Metaverse current ecosystem and the components of this ecosystem. But firstly, let's just define how do you understand the Metaverse for yourself, or how do you define it for your teams? For example, when I talk about Metaverse, I usually include different technology stack into this concept, like AI, machine learning, natural language learning, blockchain with cryptos and NFTs. And the third component is usually around the XR technologies to help this concept to manifest itself, and like being the entry point, having the visual component, and specifically with virtual and augmented reality. And usually I said that this is the evolution of the internet. So it's now one application or platform. So this is how I define. And what do you think of that? How do you define it for yourself? Just like a few sentences.
Okay, so that's a very broad question, and I suggest that we don't skip it, but let's make it simple and short as possible. So I dream of the metaverse, which we're gonna be able to connect through Neuralink, and the place where we're gonna be completely online without any ties to the real world, and that would be the fully experiential virtual environment where we will be able to interact with other people in the ways that would make sense in 10 years or so. And that's something from science fiction. Currently, metaverse is the umbrella term for all immersive experiences. And experience here is the most important word for me. While maybe for you, metaverse would mean something completely different, considering the way you help to put that on chain.
Yeah.
But for us, it's about the experience, and people are now have very hyped expectations from the metaverse. Nobody knows what to expect, but we have our own version, and we just see and we experiment with how people are using this. So to wrap it up, I think the metaverse is the technology, not the destination, which helps to make lonely online experiences into social ones.
Okay, got it. Thank you. I really love this social thing and experience focus. Stu, what do you think of it? What is your perception of metaverse?
Honestly, my definition would be as close as possible to yours in terms of the metaverse currently being a concept rather than a thing. It does not exist yet, but it is an aggregation of different silos of technology that are all evolving at a pretty rapid pace. You mentioned, AI, XR, blockchain, crypto, digital assets, all of these different components are on their own path, but in the future will kind of be more integrated in our experiences. For example, if we take blockchain and crypto at the moment and we take a Meta Quest, these are completely different things. However, at some point in the future, there will, in my opinion, be some form of native integration with them, the same as AI and a Meta Quest. We don't have the kind of stable diffusion live environments and live creation, or the NPCs with incredible NLP to kind of be virtual world companions. These things are all growing separately, but I do feel like they will be coming together in the near future, and that combination of things is really how I'm looking at the metaverse.
Yeah, hopefully we will see some of these technologies coming together, because like I was doing my research for the last like few months a lot around the metaverse and technologies that are components of metaverse and how different industries sees the metaverse for themselves. And that was interesting, because some of the companies who call themselves metaverses or metaverse based or something like that, they don't even like include blockchain or crypto, or they're not decentralized, right? But they're still a part of this ecosystem. Like Zoom, it's also part of the metaverse, but it's just like the old style, the Web2 thing, and we will have that like a more engaging way of talking to each other and communicating and having the social component in metaverse that we're moving towards. So yeah, that's a very interesting thing. We'll see how it goes. But like, if to talk about the businesses and what they can get from joining the metaverse today, what do you think, like what they can get now, and what should they expect in future, like in 5 to 10 years? For example, like businesses who are joining the metaverse, like the metaverse, which we have at the moment, they can have this collaboration in engaging environments. They can have the trainings and simulations. They can have like team building sessions. They can use it for hiring and recruitment, onboarding, and so on and so forth. So from your perspective, guys, what do you think like businesses can get the most from metaverse as it is today?
So I can jump in, because we clearly see the huge difference between like outside external metaverse experiences and internal metaverse experiences.
Yeah.
So obviously marketing and community management people and employee branding people are considering using metaverse as the tool to attract more attention, more business, more brand recognition towards your company. And in these cases, they are companies either go to existing platforms with the audience and integrate and create their metaverse experience there. Like, for instance, the most successful case is considered to be Nike, and now it's Chipotle on Roblox. And some other companies, they want to have their own metaverse, so they don't want to do that together with somebody. Like Skoda, after manufacturer, just made their Skodaverse, and in that case, they have a disconnected metaverse, but they still own and control it. Those are marketing cases. With Party Space, companies are hosting marketing events, community events, etc. And that's not the part of the larger metaverse. It's something like that they own their own metaverse experience. And for internal metaverse use cases, so from team buildings and happy hours, Friday after works, in conferences. We saw a lot of different use cases, and as I said, like we saw that people want to make those experiences social, because that's the only way to keep people engaged. I saw one of the last questions in Q&A module is how to make people turn on their cameras on corporate calls. And that's something that's the problem we are solving in Party Space, because Party Space is the combination of 3D environment and audio and video communication, something people are so used to. And in our case, we see that people are just not turning off their cameras because the environment is so fun. They are so engaged that they don't care about
No
people seeing them.
cameras. Yeah.
Yeah. And they see this as a part of the experience, especially considering when you can be shooting other people using emoji gun. You won't be doing that for, aiming in their face. So you are
Oh
more or
yeah,
less.
yeah. That would be weird.
Yeah, that's why you are interested in doing that, and you keep your camera turned on, and
Okay. And you can
that's
shoot
about
whoever you
the
want.
engagement. Yeah, even the speaker,
Okay.
even your CEO.
Okay, got it. So marketing, sales, product presentations, and for sure the branding and the everything around it. Stu, from your perspective, what do you think like business can get the most out of metaverse presence today?
Yeah, I think obviously, and this again echoes a lot of these points that Yurii was making, but I think on the marketing side of things, it's definitely a tactic that has been implemented a lot. And I would say nearly kind of getting a bit old in terms of this brand entering the metaverse, this brand entering the metaverse. And really, all that being is them hiring third-party contractors to build out a virtual experience for them that they'll set up and they'll run for a bit, and then that's that. I mean, that's definitely a tool and a mechanism that can be used and can draw some publicity. And it's not that I'm anti that, but I think really brands shouldn't be rushing to implement something just for marketing purposes. I think they really need at this point to have consultancy about how they can bring their product and the assets that they have, be them physical or virtual, into this domain. So rather than just having a one-off activation, thinking about, okay, we have this IP, we can go all these different ways with it. Let's figure out how we build out an ecosystem, not just on Roblox, not just in Decentraland, not just as a PFP NFT, but how can we take components from each and build out this ecosystem where it's whole and it's inclusive of each of these different pieces of technology. Looking at all of those components that we spoke about earlier, trying to build something around that, where if you're Nike and you think about AI and image creation with something like Stable Diffusion or Midjourney, how can you build out a DIY prompt-based Nike colorway or virtual good that then you can take to places, to these virtual worlds, and allow owners to use that. So I'm trying to get brands to think beyond just that one-off activation. I think also internal use cases for employee engagement is huge. I do virtual world tours with my team and help them understand the landscape, both in centralized and decentralized virtual worlds. And also utilizing XR technology to make things more interactive, instead of dropping merch to all your employees so they get another mug or something over the holidays. Why not create a snap filter that allows you to wear your company's hat with a logo on it, something like that. It adds another level of engagement that we haven't had previously.
Yeah, I understand what you're talking about. And it's interesting that you mentioned about making it compatible with like with other tools that business already uses, not just a separate metaverse thing that should work by itself somewhere in the metaverse, like a lot of people think, but to connect it with your ecosystem, to integrate it into your marketing campaign, and to make sure that it has a goal, it has a tool, it has an audience, and so on and so forth. Yurii, you
So,
wanted to add something?
yeah. I have a good analogy, and Drew actually brought me to this. So, 20 years ago, businesses were launching websites, not because they felt they needed, and they didn't know why the heck are they doing this. They were making it because it was just cool. And you have like offline business, and your website was just an add-on that first of all wasn't bringing a lot of value. It's you should have integrated that into your processes, and that's what's happening now with the metaverse. So you have your online business, you have a website, everything works smoothly, and now you add the metaverse component, and you have to think of the ways to connect that with your business in the best possible way. So I think, as it was 20 years ago, having a website was just cool. Now it's the question of being alive for your business or not. In 10 years, the same going to be with metaverse. Either you have your own metaverse presence, experience, and you know how to deal with it, or you're out of business, you're done.
Yeah, that's true. I love this this parallel. And like while you were answering the question what businesses can take from metaverse, I was thinking, and I came up with this thought that a lot of businesses, they use metaverse right now just for reputation, just for creating this buzz. Just, we were the first in the metaverse, we created the first something. A lot of companies, they create a real value. Some companies, they use this metaverse to run the research on the young generations, on their target audience, who's using the Roblox, the Decentraland, Sandbox, and they have their community managers integrated into this platform. So they're constantly researching and analyzing the audience and growing the loyal audience for their future campaigns. And I think that, right now it's like a lot of pioneers in here, and people are validating different ideas and approaches with metaverse. But in 10 years, it's going to be the same, like with the websites and applications. Okay, so like moving from this question, and we were already talking about the trends, and I might say that the metaverse itself, it's a big trend right now. A lot of people are talking about it, media are writing about it, creating videos and everything. Like, what are the main trends you can highlight in this metaverse buzz at the moment? And how do you see those trends moving and developing and emerging in the next few years? Like,
Sure.
yeah, who wanted to jump in first?
Would you take this one?
Yeah, I can take that. So for me, I think obviously virtual world experiences are huge. And I think they're big because they're an accessible concept for a consumer. Instead of going to a website, you're going to a 3D space. So the massive set of implementations of those virtual world experiences is definitely a trend. I think, taking a step back, or just kind of looking at where we've been for the last few years, AR filters are huge. AR experiences on a consumer device, it's now gone from being something that's trendy, I think, and that hype cycle has kind of gone down through the trough of illusionment, and we've kind of leveled out at a space where it's integrated now. We're familiar with it. It's something that's just very native to us. So I think really the the easy to understand concepts for users are the biggest use cases I've seen. One of the things I'm most interested in is the concept of avatar, self-sovereign identity, digital ownership, and digital fashion. I think there are a lot of brands that are starting to understand, fashion brands starting to understand the tangibility of digital assets as it pertains to a revenue driver for their business. Whereas like a year ago, I don't think that was the case. They are seeing a lot of brands getting into the virtual garment space, driving revenue. But really, that trend, I think, will see rapidly increase, exponentially over the next couple of years.
I cannot agree more in here. And I remember our conversation from the last week where we were talking about this, like using 3D to create an NFT, or some platforms that help you create it fast and easy. I think it's also one of the trends at the moment, like building those platforms who help developers or internal teams and brands develop something fast, something easy, and just validate it on the market and integrate it somewhere into their application, or using some ready avatars or something like that. Cool. And I really loved with the one thing with the AR filters, and I think that the web AR is also one of the big trends at the moment, because it also makes it more accessible for the end customers and also for the companies who can enter this market, because you don't really need the application, but you still have this accessible AR experience on the web platforms. And I think that the web is one of the most interesting platforms at the moment.
100% agree. And I think the reason it's most interesting is, again, the accessibility of it. That is the most accessible platform. I have great faith the web's going to be that onboarder for this metaverse across all of those different components. And as technology on the cell phone advances in terms of LiDAR, in terms of being able to spatially map things out, that represents a huge opportunity for brands. So yeah.
Yeah, and Yurii, what do you think about the
Yeah.
trends? Do you have your own
Yeah, so-
insights on that?
So yeah, definitely. So overall, the trend for like consumer hype, consumer expectations are going down, while businesses are only starting up. So Gartner is just releasing their materials, and some businesses are not considering doing something until Gartner published their research on that. So we're gonna see a lot more cases in 2023, and I think AR is really cool for the consumer spectrum, definitely because of its accessibility. VR already, like we saw the VR hype like 8 years ago or so, 7 years ago, and then only companies who found B2B applications like trainings. You want to train your surgeon in VR rather than offline. The cost is quite different. Or you want to train military people, pilots in VR, so that totally makes sense. So VR generally has some gravitas towards B2B, and that's what we also now will see for remote teams. And party space in all this market is browser first. So we thought, okay, why don't we just do everything in the browser with a combination of 3D and video? That would be more engaging than on Zoom, and you won't need any equipment, anything like that. That's why I think still the most accessible way to use Metaverse is in browser, and that works.
Yeah. And listen, you're in the market for the last 2 years, right? So you have seen some user experience trends and user behavior trends. Can you share something from this perspective, like during these 2 years and right now entering this big metaverse topic? How do people behave on your platform, and what are the trends of the user behavior?
So the way people behave, the end users, people behave on the platform, it hasn't changed. In fact, there are people who are lurkers, people who are actively taking part in the events, and people who are just all over the event, and they interact with the like passive content. And but when we say about the patterns, like the way the buyers are acting. Everything changed. So we started 2.5 years, and we had the 2D platform for video chatting, where we were trying to gamify video chats, but one huge music streaming platform with 5,000 employees said, we want to celebrate the end of your party. And they also said, we want that to happen in browser and in 3D. And that was the moment when we first prototyped and created Participate 3D environment.
Got it.
And for the first year, people were calling this like 3D virtual events, and that wasn't much fun. That wasn't bringing a lot of attention or business. But after the metaverse hype started, the rising tide really helped us.
Yeah, I know that feeling. I
That's the
remember
story.
like 7 years ago when the Pokemon Go just launched, and even my grandma, she got to know what is augmented reality. And I was so thankful, like, thank you, Pokemon Go, because everyone right now know what is AR, what is augmented reality, and it was easier for us to communicate the technology and its value to the to the audience, because they've been already familiar with the concept. And right now with the metaverse itself. And Stu, I was surprised you didn't mention anything connected to NFT or Web3 or blockchain when we talked about trends.
Yeah, I mean, I would say just more in general, it's definitely a trend, but from an adoption standpoint, because the market has cooled off significantly, there's kind of been this adoption halt, where brands are kind of intimidated by the concept. When hype was as high as it was, there was a rush for brands who had that interest to get involved, to make to do an activation, but it has cooled off. I will say though that there are a lot of brands, major brands, that are truly trying to figure out this space and understand the consumer of Web3 at this point in time. So it's a completely different set of consumers, where if someone buys an NFT for a given brand, they are feeling like they are part of that brand now, which is an experience that we haven't really seen, unless you're buying stocks, obviously. But NFTs are kind of that lower barrier to entry, to have some say, to be part of the community, to get to drive a business forward in more of a decentralized manner. So, long story short, there are a lot of brands playing in the space. The hype cycle has kind of filtered out the real from the marketing ploys. And I think we'll continue to see that adoption grow.
We'll see, but it's exciting. And talking about brands and businesses using the metaverse or some parts of this metaverses, I also recall that a lot of big companies and like big names, enterprise level, they were requesting their own metaverses creation. Like Yurii, you mentioned Skodaverse, right? They are not, like, some of them are interested in creating some space in the central end, but a lot of companies, they're looking for creating their own platform, their own place in this verse, where they can do some of the collaborations or presentations, events, product presentations, and so on and so forth. So if there is a question like how to choose the right platform, what would you recommend in here? Because we have Decentraland, Sandbox, we have Roblox, we have Second Life, we have a lot of other applications all around it. And what do you think, like, what are the tips and tricks on when you need to use a platform, the existing one? What are the metrics, or what are the questions a brand or a company should ask themselves before choosing the platform?
For sure. So I think it comes down to a couple of things. I think figuring out why firstly, why you want to do this, figuring out, okay, well, you've understood your why. Now, what consumer segment should you be going for? If it's trying to adopt Gen Z and Gen Alpha into your brand, then there's going to be certain platforms that may make sense for that. If you are trying to tap into that Web3 audience, there's going to be platforms that make sense for that. From a commerce perspective, and again, industry by industry, it changes as well as the consumer segment. But from a commerce perspective, I do see there being additional value in not just creating a siloed verse. And I've really kind of gotten sick of that term, but I think having a integration that can be discovered and that can provide utility to a larger ecosystem is probably a better approach, because you get to tap into a community, you get to leverage their learnings, you get to understand the consumer better because you have more of a communication path with them. I don't recommend going out and building your own thing, because for me it's kind of analogous to having your own app. Unless you're providing true utility. If you're, say, BMW, and you create your app just for creating an app's sake, consumers that have no utility from that aren't going to download it and aren't going to use it. Whereas if you're, say, a commerce company that's selling goods, being integrated into Amazon is obviously a huge benefit. And I think we'll have a lot of metaverse advertising and partnerships that will expand, but being integrated into that larger ecosystem will always have a bit more value, I think.
Cool.
So I'd love to jump in because still the metaverse is the internet, and if you have the link to enter your experience, then you're already basically connected with all other metaverse experiences. And this interoperability thing that is now being thinking of for metaverse is mostly considered for creators. So, and they're trying to solve the problem that, okay, if I created something for one metaverse, I want that to be on other platforms too. And that will be a huge problem soon. And we will see a lot of actually winners, losers, and ideas in the market. But let's think of the real life comparison example. So probably all of you saw like what kind of offline events Red Bull was making, and they just started this experiential events marketing strategy, which worked really well for them. Their brand got associated with extreme sports, and if you are a strong brand with your community, people are associating your drink with extreme sports, and you are running experiential events, then it's going to work for you. And try doing something that for the brand that is nowhere connected with extreme sports, and that would just be silly, so for that B2B brand, I don't know, selling conventional heating system, it would totally make sense. Go to the expo center where people who are buying I don't know, heaters or whatever would go, and you will find your audience there. So it's always about a good strategy, and I think like chief metaverse officer is now a very hard job, because you have to make a lot of decisions that won't have the immediate results, and it's going to be so hard to measure. You don't have industry standards, you don't know what the metaverse conversion rate, etc.
Exactly. And there was this question in the list of questions from our audience about the ROI and the metrics, how you can measure the success and effectiveness of your company's presence in the metaverse. So yeah, it's too early to measure. We have to understand what to measure, how to measure, and having the use cases and statistics on top of that.
Yeah, and I want to kind of jump in there because this is really the intersection with more of my world, is that you could definitely argue from an NFT side of things that it's definitely measurable. Nike's made 185 million through sales of their NFTs through that ecosystem with their acquisition of the company Artifact. So on that side of things, where you know, for those who aren't familiar, I would definitely recommend looking into this as a case study. Is they released NFT PFPs or profile pictures of 20,000 different avatars, and unlike many other collections in the space, they enabled users to download 3D models of their avatars. So what you started seeing was a bunch of creators that either had a lot of experience in 3D or no experience in 3D, taking these pieces of IP really and building out their own concepts, their own animations, their own virtual world experiences.
This
And
is
from
beautiful.
that, yeah, exactly. And from that, you know, you can measure sales. Obviously, everything's transparent on chain. You can look at all of the users and their wallets and what other NFTs they own and how much they're spending and what they're spending it on and how can we get this pool of users over to us. And on top of that, you can get all of this information about the generated reach from all of this content
Mhm.
being created by these creators in networks. So for me, I am a bit biased because I bought into their ecosystem. However, I think they're a really good case study of measurability and impact in the Web3 component of the metaverse.
Absolutely, I love it. Thank you for mentioning that. And what was the name of that campaign? Can you recall it?
Yeah, so it's Artifact, which is spelled
Uh-huh.
RTFKT. I can
Mhm.
actually, yeah, I'll put it in the Q&A maybe.
Okay,
But
cool.
yeah, Nike Artifact, building out huge things, and they've just yesterday announced their Dot Swoosh platform,
Yeah.
which is going to bring through a ton of different creators in the space, and you know is going to focus on digital products and creators. So that's really exciting as well.
That's
So
amazing. Can you? Yeah, I'm sorry. Can you please share it in Q&A so our guests they can check it out and learn more about it? Because I think that this use case will answer some of the questions we have from our audience. And Yuri, sorry for interruption.
yeah, just wanted to add. So the second most successful case was for Tiffany, where
Mhm.
just sold a lot of expensive NFTs without that much of the secondary market. So in case of
Mhm.
Nike, the real success was not the initial sale, but that they enabled the secondary market. That's always the definition of success on the in the NFT world. And
Cool.
like not to leave the internal metrics abroad. So as Party Space, we are measuring the average session length and for corporate events because it's so hard to keep people engaged, and
Mhm.
our record so far is like at 4.5 hours of the average session length on a social. It was a Friday all hands day for a company, and now we used to be measuring the whole session. Now we measure how for how long people would stay after the end of the official
Mm.
part. And like after this webinar, I highly doubt somebody gonna hanging out here for some time. While on Party Space, we see that people are spending a lot of time after the event to casual network, to meet other people, to interact, etc. So yeah, there are
That
some
is cool. Yeah,
first signs of like real value that you could find in metaverse experiences.
and community building as well. Hopefully, you can share with us some of the statistics maybe by the end of the year, or I don't know what are your plans. But it's super cool to know more details about that. I'm sure it will inspire a lot of our guests in here to move into that direction more. Okay, guys, so let's wrap it up and jump to the Q&A session. We have here a question about the what about the equipment cost barrier? It's not coming down. Yes, it's not coming down, but I guess it's not the moment for it to come down. Like we have more and more different pieces of glasses, headsets being launched on the market, and I think it's the time. Like I guess you remember when the first smartphones were just launched. They were very expensive. There were not that much of different types of these smartphones. But then with 5-10 years, we saw the difference. So I think the same will be with the virtual and augmented reality hardware, but not only with XR hardware. For example, I saw at one of the last conferences, there was a startup from Cambridge, and they developed this like the material for having the full RGB colors in one layer of glass. And that is a significant step for the hardware developers, because instead of 7 layers of glass, there will be only 1 layer with the full RGB colors. And that will cut the cost for its development, cut the timeline for its development, and so on and so forth. So we're not only looking for new glasses, but also we're looking for new technologies and components for these glasses or lenses or headsets that are going to be in future, when the price will be massively adopted and accessible for everyone. What do you think?
I'd love to disagree. So Oculus Quest 2 was a significant decrease in price, and that might be considered the first feature-complete VR headset. It's not ideal. It has some drawbacks, but it's not that expensive, and it doesn't require you having like a huge gaming setup to enjoy VR. So I think more or less we are moving towards we're going to have a premium segment of professional VR headsets and the mass market, which would be sold maybe even under the manufacturing cost, like Xbox. It costs a lot more to produce Xbox than to sell it, than the final price. So I think we're going to see something like that in this equipment market.
Yeah, and to add to that, like I think one of the things that we'll see that may, especially from the virtual world experience side of things, is let's say you have an Oculus headset. There's a lot of companies and major corporations like Microsoft, like NVIDIA, that are launching subscriber pixel streaming services. And so basically what that means is, instead of going out and buying a computer with an extremely expensive GPU or having an Xbox One or PS5, you can pay a subscription to access that technology via the cloud and have that same experience. So for me, I think, yes, there are expensive pieces of technology, but to your point, Daria, we are trying to push that technology first and the development of that prior to kind of bringing down the costs. But if we talk about the web, everyone has access to the web here, and that being a gateway is huge. And if you are able to tap into WebXR experiences, that's another path for it, where so.
And it's not such a big barrier in here, because when you have a web access, then it's much more easier and it doesn't require any specific hardware. And Yurii is smiling in here because he knows a lot about it.
No, so Stu, please don't take that personally, but if we consider NFT as the equipment that was used to access some experiences, now the equipment cost for buying NFTs is so dramatically lower than it used to be a year ago. I'm also down with the market, so but that type of equipment is definitely on a huge sale right now.
Yes.
Well, hopefully that's gonna change soon. We're waiting for that. trend. Okay, so guys, there was also the question, will there be one single metaverse someday? Well, what do you think? From my perspective, it's like, well, will there be one internet someday? We'll already have it. We already live in pieces of that metaverse, of that concept, right? But
there is a political question whether would you consider Chinese internet the other internet or not, and that's a tricky question as with the metaverse. So I don't think we know the answer, and hopefully not. Hopefully we're gonna have a lot of different interoperable metaverses on blockchains, and you will be able to access anything from anywhere without any censorship, hacked funds, etc. But that's it.
Yeah, that will be easier.
Right, and I think there's definitely, at least in 10 years in the future, I see NVIDIA and Epic really creating the experience that consumers are after. But at the same time, if we look at the trends in the backlash around environmental sustainability, especially with the crypto side of things and mining, the cost of running these server farms to power those type of experiences going to be hugely detrimental. And so I think, the web can provide a more inclusive solution to integrate a lot of these virtual worlds together. At the moment, I've set up on my website previously a world that links to one version of what I want people to see, and then portals them to another different virtual world that exists with, my space in there. So it's at the current point in time, the web allows for this portal access across these virtual worlds. And for me, that's most native to our current browsing experience, where if we're reading the news and we want to click a link to learn more, we go to another web page. So for me,
the same with the metaverse. So you can jump between different layers and different platforms. I would love to have my own avatar across all those platforms, and maybe I can customize it for each specific platform or layer or world I'm jumping in. And it's also a very interesting topic about the avatars, and I think we will cover that in another webinar. Hopefully we'll have some cool perspective on that at that moment. And we were talking with you also about the avatars recently, with the Ready Player Me avatars and real-like avatars. I think it's also one of the big components of the metaverse at the moment.
100%. And I think the direct avatar kind of world that we're living in, or starting to live in, especially for Gen Z, is a huge opportunity for businesses. It ties back to that digital fashion component. But yes, avatars, like I have a couple of avatars that enable me to go across different web-based virtual worlds with a specific file. And I think that will kind of be integrated into more of the Web3 culture that we see in the future. So could talk about that for days.
I know that feeling. So we are, let's have one last question, and it's about children. The question is, sooner or later, children will arrive in the metaverse. How did you see that arrival? Well, I would love to say that they already arrived, because we have Roblox, we have Fortnite, we have all those games, and we have all of those environments. And children are already integrated a lot. They're socializing in there. They're building relationships in there. They're experiencing different like brands and activations in there. So what do you think of that?
So, it might be an unpopular opinion, but Gen Zs are not excited about the metaverse. 30 or 40% of them consider this concept pretty dumb, because they are already in the metaverse and they don't have to call it.
Yeah.
So That's why it's kind of a conflict of generations, and like even with avatars. So for Gen Zs, investing an hour in building their own avatar is the fun way of spending time. When those are corporate events, we saw that only like 1 out of 10 visitors they even consider adding the picture to their avatar on party space. So it's the difference is tremendous, and we won't see that. And also, I saw somebody asking like, how do we realize the browser first? I will just share the demo link in chat. So please feel free to use our virtual office to test the browser first metaverse.
Cool. Thank you, Yurii.
Also, that's the chat with hosts and panelists.
Okay.
Actually, see, your message about artifact is also there.
Yes, I see.
So
Can you share it in Q&A or?
No, I don't think we have access to write in Q&A.
Okay, you can share it in chat, and I will reshare it in Q&A so also people can use it. Okay, so I'm sharing it in here.
I just tried answering that to Adrian.
I see your link. I will type it in as an answer. Sorry for this thing. Well, Stu, what do you think about children arrival to the metaverse?
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, in my opinion, children are way more in the metaverse than anyone. They, the stories that I hear from so many parents of, say Roblox, for example, a child will have a birthday party and they will spend that whole time with their friends in Roblox while they're together, sitting in the same space physically. The relationships that children have with other people, a lot of things, maybe my interaction in a virtual space with someone else is kind of seen as like a one-off fun interaction, but for them, relationships are built, formed, fights happen, and their virtual presence is as significant as their physical presence. So for me, I mean, that's the primary market from a user perspective. However, especially on the Web3 side of things, again, I think what's happening here is the construction of the infrastructure of a decentralized version of what they're currently seeing. So even though user base is not great, I think they're building these technologies, concepts that will eventually be integrated into these larger platforms that children are participating in.
Cool. Well, we have a metaverse full of children. Well, we can ask for more. Well, okay. Thank you so much, Yurii, Stu, for your time, for being here, for sharing your thoughts, your perspectives on this metaverse topic, on its ecosystem, and everything that is happening in your industry as well. Thank you to our participants, to all of your questions. And Nick, I see your question about where you can study VR and VR school. We don't have a VR school in Kiev, but I can give you a suggestion on the VR AR school, which is in Metaverse. And they have a lot of lectures and cool materials. So just text me in LinkedIn and I can make a suggestion. Thank you, everyone. Hopefully you took something interesting for yourself, some inspiration or something to think about after this webinar. We will publish it on YouTube, and I will also use the questions you've shared with us in comments. So maybe we can jump in there and also continue our discussion in comments under that video. Thank you so much, and enjoy your day. I don't know if it is a daytime for West Coast for sure, but for all of the others, just be safe and take care of yourself. And we will continue our lectures and webinars in 2 weeks, hopefully.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.